Hey guys, it's Angelo, and welcome to my Shadow Priest guide for patch 8.2 in Battle for Azeroth. This patch brings a lot of new features and new content to the game, including a new dungeon, Operation Mechagon, as well as a brand new raid tier with the Eternal Palace. Through the new Essence system, which will increase the power of your Heart of Azeroth with brand new abilities, the Shadow Priest has seen some interesting changes compared to the previous patch, and even though the spec has been nerfed to the start of 8.2, it's still an incredibly competitive spec and fulfills its damage capabilities completely. In this guide, as in all of my previous guides, we'll go over what's changed for the Shadow Priest, and we'll talk about how the recent nerfs have impacted the spec, our talents and which ones to pick in certain situations, your rotation and how your essences tie into that, and finally the overall pros and cons of the spec. If you wish to discuss anything Priest or World of Warcraft related with fellow viewers or myself over on Discord, be sure to hit the link in the description below to join the server. Now, with that being said, and without letting you wait any longer, let's go right ahead and have a look. First off, let's discuss what has changed for us this patch. If you haven't played World of Warcraft in a while and are returning to this patch, then this section should get you back on track with the current standing of the Shadow Priest. Our most noticeable gameplay changes are most certainly the nerfs to 3 of our core damage outputs: Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and one of our talents, Auspicious Spirits. This makes all of our damage over time weaker, which reduces the overall output we can potentially have by quite a bit. Through the implementation of essences for your Heart of Azeroth, which is a new progression system which grants new abilities and passives for your spec, and through these exact nerfs on our dots, this makes different playstyles receive somewhat of a return, as Shadow Crash is now a completely viable option, as well as Shadow Word Death in certain situations. Through said essences, our ramp-up time can be a lot quicker, and our void forms can actually be held active a lot longer than before, but more on that in the rotation section. Our single target damage has definitely seen a drop as well, as it too, just as our cleave damage, is heavily reliant upon strong dot damage. Overall, this certainly makes it a lot more difficult, or rather, a lot harder to be on top of the damage meters, considering the fact that errors or mishaps in your rotation will lead to immediate drops in DPS. Our talents see some interesting changes in diversity in some aspects, but most of the current framework stays exactly the same. In our level 15 talent row, Shadow Word Void now reigns completely superior, and for PvE content will be the only viable option. In our level 30 talent row, you will most likely be picking Body and Soul, with Intangibility being situational and Sand Lane being even more situational. In our level 45 talent row, Twist of Fate will generally be your best option, with Misery being strong in certain situations where all of your targets are very far split apart, similar to the Conclave of the Chosen in the Battle for Dazar Allure, and Dark Void being strong in Mythic Plus and any AoE scenario. Our level 60 talent row will see you making use of either Last Word or Psychic Horror in most situations, but once more, this is completely situational. Our level 75 talent row is where most gameplay changes take place. With the nerf to Auspicious Spirits, Shadow Crash has seen a huge increase in potency, and in most, if not all single target situations, you will want to pick Shadow Crash instead of Auspicious Spirits. Shadow Crash will even be better in cleave situations if the targets you damage will all take damage from your Shadow Crash impact. But if the targets are split too far apart from one another, Auspicious Spirits will result in better and higher DPS. Auspicious Spirits also grants passive insanity per spiteful apparition that hits your targets, and the more targets you have, obviously the more insanity you will gain, which will result in a higher void form uptime. Shadow Word Death is competitive for bosses and encounters, which end very quickly, but only in a single target situation. Even here, however, it is slightly behind Shadow Crash, but if you have bosses on farm status, or are just clearing normal mode content, then there's nothing against using Shadow Word Death. Our level 90 talent row remains completely unchanged, with Lingering Insanity on top, as it is incredibly important to an effective and fluent playstyle. Finally, our level 100 talent row remains completely unchanged as well. Legacy of the Void will still be your go-to in pretty much all situations, while Dark Ascension will see its use in Mythic Plus or in heavy AoE reliant encounters. Good. Now, with our talents discussed, let's go ahead and take a look at our essences, our rotation, and our cooldowns. When it comes to our rotation, the only changes we will see stem from the talents we pick, as well as the essences we use. As a Shadow Priest, you will want to stick to Memory of Lucid Dreams as your primary essence, as its active ability, or major power, increases your insanity generation by 100% for a short period of time, depending on your essence rank, while its minor power has a chance to refund the insanity drained for 1 second of your void form, while simultaneously increasing your versatility. This essence will be your best for raiding and will be pretty good for Mythic Plus, as the higher void form stacks as well as the passive will result in higher haste via Lingering Insanity, as well as higher critical strike via Chorus of Insanity. Blood of the Enemy is also great, as your critical strikes from spells and abilities grant you critical strike, and upon reaching a certain number of stacks grants you haste for 8 seconds as well. Now, for a full list of essences and which ones you'll want to pick, be sure to check out my essences video once the Eternal Palace releases. If you're watching this video before the Eternal Palace is released, just check back next week, and if you're watching it currently while the raid is already out, the link should pop up on the info bar on the top right corner. Just check back next week, and if you're watching it currently while the raid is already out, the link should pop up on the info bar on the top right corner. Effectively, you'll want to start off a fight by opening with a Void Eruption. You do this by applying Power Word Shield to as many allies as you have within your group until you reach at least 60 insanity. When the encounter starts off by your tanks doing a pull timer, you'll want to use your potion at around 3 seconds, just to be sure, and then press your Void Eruption at 2 seconds. This will allow for the cast to come through, as well as Void Eruption's travel time to be just about in sync with the countdown of the pull timer, allowing you not to pre-pull, while also putting you into a Void form right from the start of the fight. Right after you've cast your Void Eruption, you want to follow this up with a Mind Blast, or Shadow Word Void, before throwing out a Void Bolt and then applying your dots. After this, just follow your regular priority list and be sure not to miss a single Void Bolt. Once you're at around 20 stacks of Void form, you'll want to make use of your Memory of Lucid Dreams major power by activating it. A pro tip here is to activate the essence right before your Void Bolt cast, so that you can make use of the insanity you'll gain from the Void Bolt, which will easily bump your insanity back up to almost 100. From there on, just continue with your regular rotation, and be sure to stick to this method of the essence use every time it comes off of cooldown. Finally, we get to the pros and cons of the spec. The Shadow Priest, once again, does fit into the content presented with 8.2, perhaps not as perfectly as it did in the Battle for Dazar lore in patch 8.1.5, which can be traced back to the recent nerfs, but still pretty nicely. In all honesty, we're not the incredibly strong spec we were last patch anymore, or in patch 8.1, however, in the hands of a good player we still fit into a role as a cleave damage dealer quite neatly and can still pull very strong DPS numbers. Whether or not we will get stronger or weaker in comparison to other specs once we've reached higher Heart of Azeroth levels and gain access to the higher ranks of our essences remains to be seen, but so far things look relatively okay, and this patch seems to be relatively smooth sailing. Nothing over the top, but nothing underperforming either. Let me know what you guys think. How are you coming along with the changes, the nerfs, and everything else that this patch brings? I'd be excited to know what you guys think, and be sure to share it in the comment section down below. A very special thanks as always to my supporters over at Patreon. You guys help out a lot, and a shout out to all of the people over at Discord, be it in personal DMs or on our server, who keep the community alive and who help each other out day by day. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you'd like to see more of my content in the future, feel free to subscribe. Have a good one, my friends, enjoy patch 8.2, and I will see you guys next week with my Discipline Priest guide and with the Azerite Essences guide, and I will of course therefore see you all in the next one.